Okay, so you send over a bunch of articles all about DeepSeek.
Yeah. Yeah.
This AI company everyone seems to be talking about.
Right.
Like they kind of just exploded onto the scene, but not everyone is exactly thrilled about it.
Yeah, it seems like they're generating a lot of attention. Not all of it positive.
Really?
We've got data protection authorities in Europe. They've got some concerns.
Yeah, really?
We've got a consumer group that's filed a complaint.
Wow.
And even the European Commission's keeping an eye on them.
Wow. That is a lot of attention for what seems like a newcomer.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics here.
Okay.
Who is DeepSeek?
Right.
And what have they done to cause such a stir?
So DeepSeek is a Chinese AI company.
Okay.
And they've developed a really powerful large language model.
Okay.
You can think of it kind of like a supercharged version of the tech behind those chatbots, but with even more potential.
Okay.
And, they've been making headlines with all these advancements, but all this attention has also drawn some scrutiny to their data practices.
Okay. And you mentioned a connection to another company called Grok.
Right.
Now, that's piqued my curiosity already. Like,
Yeah.
what's the connection there?
We'll circle back to that. I
Oh.
think it's a really fascinating piece of the puzzle.
Oh, okay. All right.
But for now, I think let's focus on some of these concerns that are swirling around DeepSeek,
Okay.
particularly in Europe.
Right.
And the big one here is data privacy.
Mm-hmm.
They're facing heat because they're collecting and storing all this user data in China.
Okay.
And that raises red flags for European regulators.
Okay. I see where this is going because Europe has that GDPR thing.
Exactly.
The General Data Protection Regulation.
Yeah.
That's pretty strict
It is.
about how companies can use people's data.
Exactly. GDPR has a really broad reach.
Okay.
So it applies even to companies outside of Europe
Oh, right.
if they're handling the data of European citizens. And one of the core principles is that this personal data needs to be protected
Right.
no matter where it's stored.
So even though DeepSeek is saying that they're following the rules when they transfer data, the fact that it ends up in China is making European authorities nervous.
You got it. And
Right.
we've actually got requests for information from data protection authorities both in Ireland and in Italy.
Oh, wait.
Both of them want to know exactly how DeepSeek is handling the data of their citizens.
Wow.
The Italian authority actually went so far as to remove DeepSeek's app
Oh, wow.
from app stores in Italy.
Yeah.
And they had a statement saying that the data of millions of Italians is at risk.
Whoa. That's a bold move.
Yeah.
They're not messing around.
Yeah.
What exactly do they want to know from DeepSeek?
They're asking some really tough questions.
Like what?
What kind of personal data is DeepSeek collecting?
Like
Where are they getting this data from?
Right.
How are they using it?
Okay.
Including for AI training. They also want to know, what DeepSeek's legal justification for all of this is under GDPR.
So it's like they're saying, show us your work and make sure it adds up.
Exactly.
But wait, didn't you say there was also a consumer group involved?
Yes.
What's their beef with DeepSeek?
So it's Euroconsumers, a European consumer advocacy group.
Okay.
They've actually filed a formal complaint with the Italian DPA.
Oh, wow.
And they are particularly concerned about the lack of age verification mechanisms on DeepSeek's platform.
So they're worried about kids' data ending up on servers in China.
Yeah.
I can see why that would be a concern.
Right.
It feels like DeepSeek is trying to pull a fast one, especially with this whole distillation thing I read about.
Right.
Can you explain that a little?
That's another layer of the story that's causing a lot of buzz.
Okay.
Some experts are speculating that DeepSeek might have trained their AI model using distillations of proprietary models from companies like Microsoft and OpenAI.
Hold on. Isn't that kind of like copying someone else's homework?
Well,
But pretending you did it yourself.
it's a little more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Imagine a chef trying to recreate a rival's signature dish. They can't just steal the recipe.
Right.
But they can taste the final product, analyze the ingredients, and try to reverse engineer it.
Okay.
So in the AI world,
Yeah.
distillation is kind of like that.
So they're taking cues from these bigger players,
Yeah.
but not directly stealing their code.
Right.
But is that even legal?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
The legality of distillation in AI is still being debated.
Okay.
Some people argue it's a legitimate form of knowledge transfer, while others see it as a sneaky way to bypass these intellectual property protections.
So DeepSeek might be playing with fire here.
Yeah.
Especially if Microsoft and OpenAI decide to lawyer up.
They could be facing a legal battle on top of everything else because Microsoft and OpenAI have invested billions in developing these AI models.
Right.
And they're fiercely protective of their intellectual property.
Okay, so we've got data privacy concerns,
Yes.
potential copyright infringement,
Right.
and this mysterious connection to Grok.
Mm.
Plus, the whole thing is playing out against the backdrop of rising tensions
Yeah.
between the U.S. and China when it comes to technology.
Exactly. And that's where the potential financial motivations of DeepSeek's parent company come into play,
Oh,
which is a hedge fund.
right?
And remember that connection to Grok I mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that Grok was also embroiled in a data privacy controversy last year.
Really?
And guess who founded Grok?
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
The CEO of the hedge fund that owns DeepSeek.
You got it.
Oh, wow.
And that raises a whole bunch of new questions about what this hedge fund is really after.
Yeah, like what are they up to?
Right.
This is getting interesting.
Yeah, it seems the CEO has a history of pushing the boundaries in the AI world, and not always in a way that sits well with regulators.
So I've got DeepSeek.
Right.
We've got Grok,
Mm-hmm.
both backed by the same hedge fund CEO.
Yeah.
Both facing scrutiny over beta practices.
Exactly.
This is starting to feel less like a coincidence
Right.
and more like a pattern.
It definitely makes you wonder if there's a bigger strategy at play here.
Yeah.
You know, is this about genuine AI innovation? Or is something else going on?
Like maybe a play to manipulate the market.
That's one theory.
Remember we talked about how some people think DeepSeek's AI could be used to predict stock prices
Right.
and give their hedge fund parent company an edge?
Yeah, that's one of the theories out there.
And the fact that this CEO has a history of pushing the limits with AI and data privacy only adds fuel to the fire.
Exactly.
It's like they're playing a high-stakes game, betting that they can outmaneuver regulators
Yeah.
and cash in before anyone catches on.
But the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're
Yeah.
found to be violating GDPR, right, the fines could be massive. And if those copyright infringement allegations are proven,
Yeah.
they could face legal action from some of the biggest players in the tech world.
Okay, let's go back to this distillation issue for a second.
Okay.
You explained it with that chef analogy,
Yeah.
but I'm still a little bit fuzzy on the technical details.
Okay.
How does this distillation thing actually work in the AI world?
Okay, so let's try another analogy.
Okay.
Imagine you have a brilliant professor who's like an expert in a particular field.
Okay.
They've spent years accumulating all this knowledge
Yeah.
and developing these insights.
Right.
Now let's say they want to train a younger, less experienced student
Okay.
to think like them, but without sharing all their lecture notes or research papers.
So the student observes the professor,
Right.
listens to their lectures, tries to absorb their way of thinking.
Exactly.
Okay.
So in the AI world, the professor is a large, complex model, like the ones developed by Microsoft and OpenAI, and the student is a smaller, more efficient model,
Okay.
like the one DeepSeek has created.
So DeepSeek's model learned by observing the outputs of these larger models,
Right.
essentially mimicking their behavior
Exactly.
without directly copying their code.
That's the idea.
Okay.
And the debate is whether that's a legitimate form of knowledge transfer
Right.
or a violation of intellectual property, right?
And it's a gray area, legally speaking,
It is a gray area.
and a gray area that could land DeepSeek in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But it's not just potential legal battles they're facing, right?
Yeah.
We've also got the European Commission and the UK's Information Commissioner's Office keeping tabs on them.
Yeah, both the EC and the ICO have made it clear that DeepSeek will be subject to the same scrutiny as any other company that's developing generative AI.
So they're not getting special treatment,
Right.
but they're also not being singled out yet.
Not yet.
But they're definitely on the radar.
They're on the radar.
And the EC in particular has been pushing for stricter regulations on AI with that new AI Act.
Yes, the AI Act is a big deal.
Right.
It's a sweeping piece of legislation
Yeah.
that aims to regulate high-risk AI systems across a range of sectors, from healthcare to finance to law enforcement.
Okay.
And it places a strong emphasis on transparency, accountability, and human oversight.
So even if DeepSeek manages to navigate these data privacy and copyright issues, they'll still need to comply with the AI Act
Absolutely.
if they want to operate in Europe.
The AI Act sets out some specific requirements for risk assessments,
Okay.
data quality, human oversight, and documentation
Yeah.
that all high-risk AI systems must meet.
Right.
And there are serious penalties for non-compliance.
It feels like DeepSeek might have rushed to market
Yeah.
without fully considering the regulatory landscape they were stepping into.
It's like they built this amazing rocket ship,
Yeah.
but forgot to check if they had permission to launch it.
Okay, so we've talked about DeepSeek.
Right.
We've talked about Grok, the hedge fund connection,
Right.
data privacy, copyright, and the AI Act.
Yeah.
It's a tangled web.
It is.
But I think we're starting to get a clearer picture of what's going on here.
Yeah, the pieces of the puzzle are starting to fall into place.
Right.
But there's one more aspect of this story that we haven't touched on yet.
What's that?
The potential impact on users.
Oh, okay.
What does all of this mean for the people whose data is being collected and used by DeepSeek?
That's a great point. We've been so focused on the legal and regulatory side of things that we haven't really considered the human element.
And it's a crucial element.
Right.
I mean, after all, AI systems are ultimately designed to interact with and impact people's lives.
Right.
So we need to ask ourselves, what are the potential consequences of DeepSeek's data practices for users?
For example, if DeepSeek is using this data to train their AI model, could that lead to biased or discriminatory outcomes?
That's a valid concern. You know, the quality of an AI model's output is directly related to the quality and diversity of the data it's trained on.
Right.
So if DeepSeek is primarily collecting data from a specific demographic or region, their AI model might not be as accurate or fair when applied to other populations.
Okay, and then there's the issue of transparency and control.
Right.
Do users even know what data DeepSeek is collecting about them?
Yeah.
And do they have any say in how it's used?
That's where GDPR comes in.
Okay.
One of the key principles of GDPR is that individuals have the right to know what personal data is being collected about them, how it's being used, and to request that it be deleted.
So even if DeepSeek is storing this data in China, European users still have the right to access and control their information.
In theory, yes.
Right.
But enforcing those rights across borders can be challenging.
Right.
And that's why the actions of data protection authorities, like the Irish DPC and the Italian DPA, are so important.
Okay.
They're essentially acting as watchdogs,
Right.
ensuring that companies like DeepSeek respect the rights of European citizens.
It's a reminder that data privacy is not just a technical issue.
Right.
It's also a human rights issue.
It is.
And as AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we need to be vigilant about protecting those rights.
Absolutely. And that vigilance needs to come from multiple fronts.
Like what?
From regulators, from advocacy groups, from journalists, and from users themselves.
So it's like a collective responsibility.
Exactly.
To ensure that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits humanity, not exploits it.
Well said. And that brings us back to the bigger picture.
Okay.
This DeepSeek saga isn't just about one company.
Right.
It's a microcosm of the challenges and opportunities we face as AI becomes increasingly pervasive in our world.
It's a story about the need for responsible innovation.
Yes.
For transparency and accountability. And for a global approach to AI governance that protects individual rights while fostering progress.
Exactly. And it's a story that's still unfolding.
Yeah.
The coming weeks and months will be crucial for DeepSeek as they respond to these information requests, navigate potential legal battles, and try to regain the trust of users and regulators.
It's a high-stakes game, and the world is watching.
It is.
But beyond the immediate drama,
the
DeepSeek story is a valuable reminder of the importance of asking tough questions, demanding answers, and shaping the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values.
And that's something we all have a role to play in, whether we're AI developers, policymakers, investors, or simply users of technology. We all have a stake in the future of AI, and the choices we make today will determine the world we inherit tomorrow.
So as we move into the final part of our deep dive, let's shift our focus from the specifics of the DeepSeek case to the broader implications for the future of AI. What lessons can we learn from this saga? What are the key questions we need to be asking ourselves as we navigate this new landscape? And how can we ensure that AI is used for good, not for harm?
Those are the questions that will define the next chapter of the AI revolution. And I'm eager to explore them with you.
We've really dug into the DeepSeek situation, the data privacy concerns, the potential copyright issues, and that whole hedge fund angle. It's a lot to unpack.
It is, but, you know, looking beyond this one case, I think it raises some really important questions about the future of AI development.
Exactly. DeepSeek might be the company making headlines right now, but their story kind of touches on so many of these big issues that we're facing. It's like they've become this case study for all these ethical challenges of AI in the real world.
One thing that really stands out to me is just the sheer speed at which AI is evolving. I mean, DeepSeek went from 0 to 60 in the blink of an eye.
You really did.
Achieving capabilities that seemed impossible just a few years ago.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and this rapid progress can be exciting, but it also makes it incredibly difficult for our laws and our ethical frameworks to keep pace.
It's almost like we're trying to write the rule book while the game is already being played at warp speed.
That's a great analogy. And in that kind of environment, it's so tempting for companies like DeepSeek to prioritize speed and market dominance over carefully considering the potential consequences of their actions.
Which brings us back to the data privacy issue.
Right.
Do you think DeepSeek might have cut corners or made some risky decisions?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's certainly possible.
Right.
And this really highlights a major tension point in the world of AI development.
What's that?
The balance between innovation and responsibility.
Okay.
You know, we want to encourage progress, but not at the expense of fundamental values. Like privacy and fairness.
And the GDPR makes it very clear that those values aren't negotiable.
Exactly.
Even for companies operating outside of Europe.
GDPR has a broad reach.
And
it sets a high standard for data protection. And I think the actions of European regulators, in this case, send a strong signal to the rest of the world.
What's that?
That these rules will be enforced no matter where the data is stored or processed.
It's a reminder that in the digital age, national borders are becoming increasingly irrelevant.
It's true.
Data flows so freely across the globe.
And
we need a global approach to AI governance. That can keep up with this new reality.
And that's where things get even more complicated. Especially when you factor in these geopolitical tensions. I mean, we're seeing this kind of technological arms race between countries like the U.S. and China. And AI is right at the center of that competition.
So the DeepSeek case isn't just about one company or even one technology. It's also a reflection of this broader struggle for power and influence in the digital world.
That's right. And as AI becomes even more powerful and pervasive, we can expect to see these tensions play out in even more complex and challenging ways.
It makes you wonder, what role do we as individuals have in all of this? It can feel so overwhelming.
It can.
Like we're just caught in the current of these massive forces.
It's easy to feel that way, but I think we have more power than we realize. One crucial thing we can do is to stay informed and engaged. The more we understand about AI, the better equipped we'll be to make informed choices about how we use it. And to demand accountability from the companies that are developing it.
So it's about taking ownership. Not just being passive consumers of technology, but actively shaping the way it develops and impacts our lives.
Exactly. And it's also about demanding transparency. We need to push companies to be more upfront.
About how their AI systems work, what data they collect, and how they use it.
No more black boxes.
No more black boxes.
Transparency is key, and I think that applies not just to the technology itself, but also to the motivations of the people behind it. In the DeepSeek case, it seems like the involvement of the hedge fund raises a lot of questions about what their end game really is.
The potential for AI to be used for financial gain or even manipulation is a serious concern. And it underscores the need for robust regulation and oversight to ensure that these powerful technologies are used ethically and responsibly.
It's like we're standing at a crossroads.
It does feel that way.
AI has the potential to solve some of humanity's greatest challenges. But it also poses some significant risks if it's not developed and used wisely.
Absolutely.
The choices we make now will determine which path we take.
And those choices need to be made collectively. It's not just up to governments or tech companies. It's a responsibility we all share.
We need to engage in these open and honest conversations about the future of AI. Consider the ethical implications. And work together to create a world where this technology benefits all of humanity.
That's a powerful call to action. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I will leave our listeners with one final thought. The future of AI is not predetermined. It's a story that's still being written. And we all have a role to play in shaping the narrative.
Beautifully said. The DeepSeek case might feel like a cautionary tale. But it can also be a catalyst for positive change.
I like that.
Let's use this as an opportunity to learn to adapt and to create a future where AI is a force for good in the world.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
It is my pleasure. Thanks for having me.